Hey guys, never really done something like this before, but I thought it might be fun to try and do a sketchbook tour. One of the issues with this is that I don't ever just use one sketchbook. I'm sure that's probably true for many artists, but um, over any given period of time, I'm using many sketchbooks, and my progress through them is not linear a lot of the time. But I do have this sketchbook that, as you can see, is from 2018 through 2022 that is finished for the most part. And I thought it might be fun to go through, especially because it kind of has a mixture of drawings and comics, and it also has quite a bit of like journal writing and stuff. I'm probably going to skip over some of that stuff. But I also just love this sketchbook. I got this when I interviewed in New York for a short-term job that I didn't end up getting with No Brow Press. They were going to be running a kiosk in Port Authority or Grand Central, I think it was. But they gave me a few books and this journal, and I love it because it's so light and just a really nice portable journal. So you'll see like some of the first things in here are from my trip to Egypt back in 2018. I thought, oh, I want to bring something with me that I can sketch in. Let me bring this, which is nice and light and floppy and bendy and just really easy to tote around and use. And it also has this beautiful like coral pattern. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it kind of reminds me of the art of Andrea Desso, who was one of my advisors in college, and I just love it. It's so pretty. So brace yourself, nothing inside here is as nice as the cover. I'm gonna try to focus this as best as I can. Let me see if I zoom. I think that's as good as it's gonna get. So this is the first sketch in the book, just a doodle, as you can see. I half inked it. I didn't even get all the way through. This is about what you can expect, so if you want to check out of the video at this point, I do not blame you. So it's a mixture mostly of ink and pencil in here. I don't think I use color a ton. Go through some of the, so these are kind of like the travelogue sketches that I was doing when I was in Egypt. Here's a pyramid. And I was doing a lot of journaling too. This is one of the few colored things in here. You'll also see a lot of really dumb little quotes and thoughts that I had that I appended to illustrations, sometimes with very little thought behind it. But I like this one. I think this is actually a drawing that I was a little bit proud of because I did it with no reference, which, you know, a lot of my drawings I do need some sort of reference for the anatomy. And this one I was using pencil and Copic markers and ink. Here's a little pencil study. I don't know if I used reference for this one. I think I probably did. Let me see if I can get focus on here. So I was playing around with using different type of shading in this one, especially in the hair. I wanted to kind of do like that side of the pencil cloudy shading and then add some definition with the point. I think these kinds of drawings are probably the most fun for me. I love doing faces, as you probably know. Let's keep going through. It's just some really weird, like pencil-y comic ideas in here. More journaling. Here's a ballpoint pen drawing. Do a ton of these. I love drawing in ballpoint pen. I don't know what it is about it. A lot of other pen is, you know, people often don't want to draw with pen because you can't erase it. And of course, you make a mistake, it's pretty, you know, indelible. But something about ballpoint really lets you kind of build up the value in a way where if you do make a mistake, it's not that serious if you're kind of just going really lightly with it. And I just love the hatching that you can do with it. This is a pretty like sketchy one, but let's continue through. You'll also see I left some blank pages in here. Sometimes it's because there was ink on the other side, and sometimes it's just random. I don't think there's a ton of them, but here and there. Here's an unfinished anatomy sketch. Here's an unfinished comic idea where I was thinking about chairs. I don't know if you can read this. sentimental person sees a chair imbued with the potential of its mortal occupants. Does high functioning persist in meaning anything in reference to something unsure of its function? So, you know, a lot of the time in my sketchbook, I'm just kind of playing around with ideas too, with writing as well. Oh, here's I remember sitting outside and doing this one during the pandemic. It's kind of a comic, but more just like some impressions in panels. I was sitting in my backyard. Again, it's a ballpoint pen, very sketchy. Let's see what else. Oh, here I was trying to lay out my website that I didn't end up making. I mean, I made one, but it was not the one that I was thinking about when I made this. More ballpoint pen realness. Catching on the... I'm about to touch my sketchbook like I'm going to focus the camera by touching the page, if you're wondering. Let's see what else. Oh, this is kind of fun. This was me just like trying to simplify an idea. As you can see, this idea is that sort of like dichotomy between wanting to be alone and wanting company, and the grass always being greener on the other side. Let's see what else. So here's a little peek into my comic making thought process. I know a lot of people thumbnail first. I usually write a script, which you can see over here. I was doing a 4-panel comic about my day, trying to do like some diary comicking. I can't remember if I posted this. I think I might have posted it on Instagram at the time. But I wrote down kind of what I wanted to be over here before I sketched it out in pencil, and then I went over it in ballpoint pen. This is, as you can see, really clearly in the middle of the pandemic. People are wearing masks. I'm thinking about, you know, going out and running on a trail, trying to wear a mask, passing people and trying to smile at them with just my eyes. So this was pretty cool. There were a bunch of comics workshops that were going on during the pandemic. So this one was Comics as Resistance with Bianca Zunis. So she was going over some of the ways that you might make a comic around political resistance. So I took some notes down here. They're even kind of color-coded. And then there was an exercise. So all of these were kind of a presentation and then an exercise. And she gave us a framework here. So announce yourself. What is your soapbox? That was her presentation. And then your final thoughts for kind of a 3 or 4 panel idea. So I don't know if I finished this one, but I added some markers, some color. Well, this is a comic about intrusive thoughts at the grocery store, thinking about how everyone that I know is going to die someday. So really cheerful stuff going on here. Here's a fun ballpoint pen study. This is an anatomy study where I was trying to move away from, doing things too linearly and just working with value and hatching. I really enjoyed working on this one. You can see I really got a chance to really deepen some of these shadows and build up the hatching. And there's not as much contour line in a lot of the areas where I really do rely on contour line a lot of the time. Okay, here I was doing some Linda Barry exercises. This is self-portraits from her Making Comics book. A lot of the exercises in here are adapted from cartoonist Ivan Brunetti. And I don't remember what the simplification of these was. They're pretty funny looking. They kind of remind me of like the whatever came before. Is it the Mii's that you had it with the Nintendo Wii? Anyway, they kind of remind me of that. I have no idea what this is, honestly. This says I'm transforming into a cabbage, and she has like cabbage hair. I can't explain this. I don't have an explanation for this. I like it, but I don't have an explanation for it. Thanks. This is another ballpoint pen sketch. I think I may have filmed this as a process drawing. I can't remember. This might have been one of the first process drawings I did, possibly. Again, the ballpoint pen lends itself really well to these kind of quick sketches where you don't go over it in pencil first and you're just kind of going straight in. So you can see in some of these areas where it's really light how you can kind of fix the line, so to speak, if you need to, or just, you know, go over it with something darker to fix it. What is this? Oh, so this is another Linda Barry exercise from Making Comics, a different book. Let's see, what was this one? Okay, so something you have to do, a line mentioned from a poem or a song. I listed it up here. A question you've been wondering about, and a command by a king or a queen. And then you have to draw each of them. So this is a Philip Larkin line from a poem or a song. They fuck you up, your mom and dad. From This Be the Verse. And I drew this little like devil guy. Something you have to do. I put breathe, very creative, and there's kind of like this little ghost. Something you have been wondering, when will it be safe again? Another very pandemic era thought. And then a command by a king or a queen. Dance, jester, and this like caterpillar wing thing. This is a fun exercise. Kind of brought me back to some of like the things I would draw as a kid. Here goes another comics workshop that I went to. This one was Thinking Through Comics with Whit Taylor. So she gave us this framework for a 4-panel comic, an experience you had, how it made you feel, how you responded to it, and any insights or takeaways. So I think I started this one and I didn't have time to finish it in the time of the workshop. So this was around the time where there was a lot of talk at my school about what it was going to look like when we returned to in-person teaching. And this was creating a huge amount of anxiety for me. So I'm starting out with this staff meeting on Zoom that I had. You can see all the little Zoom bubbles here. This week we attended a staff meeting on Zoom to learn more about what reopening for the school year will look like for teachers. I always feel a certain amount of anxiety and trepidation when the new school year starts, but never like this year. And then there's kind of put like all these faces of the different things that teachers are wondering as we think about returning. Afterwards, I went downstairs and commiserated with my mother, who is also a teacher. And there's my mom saying everything is still so uncertain, and me agreeing. And then I did not do a final panel. Another little ballpoint sketch, trying to incorporate a little more contrast into some of these sketches, even just by adding like a dark background here. I think this is supposed to be like Anthe from Revolutionary Girl Utena. Journaling. Another little poorly foreshortened sketch. Oh, this is nice. This is definitely referenced, more ballpoint pen. But then on the other side, I have here this little, sorry, it's upside down. It's like a wordless comic. So there's not a ton going on, so to speak, in this comic, but I was thinking about, you know, again, that contrast, those dark backgrounds, or some kind of dark subject and something changing, maybe taking shape. All right, and we're back. This is on a different day, if you're wondering why the lighting situation is a little bit different. This was another referenced drawing with a bird. I remember remember the reference photo for this was so cool. This was a workshop on this side, Wordless Comics with John Garazar. I took some really interesting notes on what he was talking about in this. I can't remember I think in this workshop we had less time than in some of the other ones for actually making the comic, or I had to dip out early or whatever, but the initial presentation was so interesting. He was talking about all of these comics he would recommend, and like Franz Mazriel, Anna Highfish. I ended up doing a review of this, the artist from Hell. So he was showing a bunch of different comics and talking about their composition and the way that the artist approached creating a story or narrative without using words or even dialogue. Here's another little comic. Black hole, it all falls into me. I'm never filled. I watch, I listen. I am always hungry. I was making this comic thinking about all of the media that I consume and how it's more than I create as an artist, and kind of the ambivalence that I feel around that. I think this was also just like a riff on like Linda Barry's spiraling exercises, and I think this was around the time I was adapting that into some art projects for kids to do at my school as a group, kids and teachers. And this one's really nice. Doing spirals is really sort of just a nice practice if you're not sure what to draw. Very meditative, almost like mindfulness coloring. And on this side there's some little sketches in pen again. This is definitely a referenced drawing too. Cannot remember from what. There, it's a little tripod is not the best. More ballpoint pen sketches. These are, on this side, probably some of my favorite unreferenced sketches that I've done in the past few years. I don't know why they turned out as well as they did. I feel like they turned out really well for something I did without reference. These on this side are referenced, but these two are not. More little sketches. I like this little dog. Very cute. Ink. I don't know what this is. This is one of the weirdest drawings I've probably ever made. I like this one. This one actually is a drawing from, sadly, a bird that my cat killed. I think the first and only bird my cat has killed. We don't really let my cat outside very much, and when we do let him outside, he is almost always supervised. So this is a terrible occurrence that happened because we looked away for a moment, and so I immortalized this poor bird on the page. Tybalt killed his first bird yesterday. This was me trying to schedule out some days for my summer and be productive. Journaling. Oh, this was a really fun workshop. this was Drawing Worlds with Tilly Walden, a cartoonist whose work is really great. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, she's amazing. So I think the prompt for this was just a 4-panel wordless comic about a world which is literally your world. So it's a world that has your name, and it's sort of populated by things that represent you. She really emphasized using a unique like visual vocabulary in the creation of your comics. Motion, energy, atmosphere, environment as a character. I loved that idea. So for my comic, I think this is like a little cafe scene here. This is my backyard. This is my living room, but it's like a fantastical version of my living room, with like a wall screen from Fahrenheit 451 and some very like modular chairs and weird game controllers. And then this is a studio. I put blank on the canvas. Very on the nose. This is Two-Headed Calf by Laura Gilpin, around the time I was thinking about making a comic of it, which I think I have on the next page, the one that I posted to Patreon. I also pasted in a sticker from the Rodin Museum into here. A little piece of memorabilia. Here's the Two-Headed Calf comic. There's a much better picture of it on Patreon for you to look at rather than this sketchbook Zoom one. Another really quick sketch, really dynamic pose that I don't really feel like I captured here from the reference. This was referenced and this was not. Another comic idea. This one is one I think I posted too. Kind of just feeling frustrated and making comics about it. Here's where I tried to take some notes on the tarot deck that I bought. Actually, I have it right here. It's a really, really gorgeous tarot deck with art from, oh my gosh, what's the artist's name? I don't have the artist's name here, but I will post it in the video description. I follow this artist on Instagram and I absolutely love their work. Just incredibly gorgeous tarot deck. My first tarot deck that I've bought. So I was trying to, there we go, tapping the sketchbook again, trying to learn about the arcana and taking some notes. I need to actually probably get back to doing that. It's been a moment. Here I was recording some daily draws. And here's another comic idea. Thinking about where someone who you have maybe drifted apart from, how they're doing now. So another referenced ballpoint sketch. A lot of these were really quick. I was just like sitting down to and I only had maybe like 15 minutes to a half an hour before I had to go and do something, and I just pulled out my reference folder and did a really quick sketch. That was a great way to just sort of get my drawing energy out. This one I was pretty proud of, like the foreshortening, also referenced, but I did this pretty quickly. I think it was from one of the Graphic Studio references, and I appended, if I'm not motivated by fear, what am I motivated by? The eternal question of an anxious person. This was me trying to do some like mapping, like idea mind mapping. This one was really fun. This was like a Copic marker drawing, but I was just using the monochromatic Copics for it. And I got to kind of do some fun contrast with the swimsuit versus the model. I love, I don't know if you've seen like drawings by artists where they leave like the hair of their subject or the clothes of their subject as kind of like the negative space. And you know, there's a lot of detail kind of around that. I've always thought that style was really fun, though I can't necessarily replicate it perfectly. I'm getting into some towards the end here. This is like, I don't know if you see this, like a puppeteer. This is, I think I posted this comic on Patreon too. I don't know if the Patreon post gives you a sense of how tiny it is. This, you can see it's very tiny. This one I posted as well. So this is around the time I was starting to post some of the stuff to Patreon. And that's the end. This is the final page. So thanks for checking out my messy sketchbook. This was fun to go through again. I don't finish a lot of sketchbooks, so it's a pretty big accomplishment. This one is, for the most part, finished, aside from those few blank pages. And definitely let me know if you'd like to see more of these. I have lots of sketchbooks, though I would have to be shuffling through more than one of them for this amount of material.